Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Something, Some Places at Certain Times. This time, we are going to do things a little bit differently. We are going to talk about a bunch of movies very quickly, just to kind of catch up on the movies that we've seen in the last, well, we'll do about a year, because I want to start with Dune, which came out a year ago in Europe, which is where I saw it. And yeah, I think it came out a year ago this weekend. So for this one, we will have potential spoilers throughout the entire thing. We're just going to talk about a bunch of movies for just a few minutes. We're not going to go into too much detail, so if you haven't seen any movies, then, if you want to see it, then of course still do. And we're not going to talk about the entire plot and all the fine details, but we will. There are potentially a spoiler, and we'll try to remember to say if we're about to say a spoiler before we say it. But just be warned, we don't have a specific section for non-spoilers coming first, because we're just going to kind of rapid fire through some things to kind of catch ourselves up on things that we've seen and that we would have liked to talk about, but we haven't really gotten around to it. So, yeah, like I said, we want to start with Dune, which came out a year ago. And,
2021. Yep.
yep, yep. And I love it. I loved it so much. I've read four of the books now. I'm on book number five. And I, the director, Denis Villeneuve, I really like his work. He did Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Sicario, Prisoners. I just watched Enemy, another movie of
Oh,
his.
that's an amazing movie. That's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Enemy.
It's yeah, I wouldn't venture to say that I can explain it completely, but I think it's really I just I like things sometimes if I can't explain them. It's really interesting, you know. But back to Dune, huge production. This has been they've tried to adapt Dune many times. Of course, they had the movie in the 80s, which was not so well received, despite having many great actors and David Lynch, who was like the best director at the time. I believe he was just coming off an Oscar win for Best Director, or his movie the previous year had won Best Picture or something like that. I'd have to look that up again. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
that was not so well received, and then there was the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, which I haven't watched. I've heard you know good things about it, but it's not something everyone has seen. It's not like a groundbreaking series as far as I'm aware. But there are
The thing is, Dune
also.
is so massive. It's just like
Mhm.
you couldn't really make it until like today's age. Like film just wasn't that good back then. But now we have the
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, and I like having read the book, I just noticed like as big as this movie is, only adapting half the novel, half the first novel. It's like the original movie adapted the entire novel, and the miniseries goes through at least to the end of Children of Dune, which is the third book in the series. But the this movie only adapts half of the first novel, just called Dune, and like even that for a 2.5, 2 hour 40 something minute movie and only half the book, I still felt like they were leaving out so many details. Like when I was reading the book,
So many details were left out. Yeah.
yeah, when I was reading the book, my bookmark was a little, like a pocket sized notebook paper where I was just writing down all the acronyms and all the names and keeping track of who was part of which family or faction and stuff like that. And they have all these indexes in the back, but I found out pretty early that you might find out too much if you started
Yeah, the
the
spoils and stuff.
indexes in the
Yeah.
back. So I started writing stuff down just to keep track of it all. But I think it does a great job of getting like the entire story still like I don't think the details they left out are like bad or anything. Like the stuff they did was great, and I love it so much. It was definitely one of my favorite
Wait,
movies in years. Hmm?
wait. You read the book after watching the movie?
No, no, no. I read the book a few years ago.
Okay. Okay.
I was actually, this was when I was overseas. I was living in a desert while reading the book, so it really helped, you know, portray the. I could feel the environment of the book very easily. Sand everywhere. It was hot and sweaty, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, Dune is what it was the best movie of last year for me. But just in terms of how beautiful it was, a lot of it felt like a perfume commercial, like a Calvin Klein ad with just like when it was like Zendaya just walking in the desert.
mhm.
Which
That like in
you
the
can say that's a
opening
good thing, you can say
scene.
it's a bad thing. Yeah, but
I could definitely
there
see
are
that.
lots
I
of
could definitely see a perfume commercial like that.
yeah,
Hmm.
no, there are lots of scenes that were left out of from the book that I wish they added, like the dining hall scene from the book, or
Hmm.
just uh, some of the things that changed were weird, like Doctor Kynes. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Liet
They changed
Kynes.
the gender.
Yeah.
Yeah, they changed the gender in the movie, which was kind of interesting to me. It didn't really mean anything. Like, but
Yeah, and it's all fine to
I didn't
me,
realize it was
and I think it's
important.
part of just modern day stuff. Of course, this book is from the '60s, so they have the. I mean, you could call it an advantage or just the different perspective of doing it from the modern day, and like the character in the book being a man doesn't really matter. So the fact that they change it to a woman, like I think it's fine. The actress was great. All the actors in this were great. The cinematography is incredible. The visual effects in this movie, it's just such a like this is a story that needs a massive scale, and I think they nailed it with this one.
Yeah, and I love Zendaya. I'm just like always talking about how much I love Zendaya. And what's his name? The hardest, t- t- the main guy. What was his name? The
Timothy
actor.
Chalamet.
Yes, Timothy Chalamet. He's
Chalamet.
a great actor too, and
Yeah, yeah, I like him. I
they did a
like
great job.
Zendaya, but even I almost more than them. Like a lot of people talk about them, of course, because they're young, and that's what our generation probably watches them the most these days. But like I like all the other actors, like Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, uh, what's the guy's name? Duncan Idaho. For whatever reason, I just
Oh
blanking
yeah,
on his.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
We're doing a great job already, man.
I know this actor so well. Why am I forgetting
Yeah,
his
He's
name?
Aquaman.
Um, no, no, no. That's oh yeah, yeah. That's Duncan. That's Jason Momoa. Yeah, no. I always okay. I That's not who I was talking about in the movie. I keep mixing up Duncan Idaho and Gurney Halleck. Gurney Halleck. That's who I was thinking.
Oh yeah, yes, yes.
Because
I
I
don't know
think
that
when
actor.
I was
I
reading the
do.
book in 2019, so they had just like announced the cast, the movie, and everything. When I was reading the book, I always pictured um, damn, what's this actor's name? Give me a second.
Gurney.
Um, One second here. Okay. Damn, he's not on the list of the first people they pull up. Come on, show me the whole cast.
Good
You
radio
Google
right
it and it
here.
shows you like six people, and he wasn't one of the first six. I'm like, what the heck? Come on, now he's not one of the first 10. He's a major character. Come on, come on. Josh Brolin. There we go. Thanos. Josh Brolin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For whatever reason, when I was reading, just because I think they just announced the cast, and I didn't like intensely study who was playing who. When I was reading the book a few years ago, I always pictured Josh Brolin as Duncan Idaho while reading the book. So now it's always like I always get them mixed up. But yeah, all of them. I like him, even though I forgot his name. But Stellan Skarsgård for Baron Harkonnen was great. I think it's fantastic. Like the whole cast, Javier Bardem is still Gar. Like everything about, I just have like nothing but praise for this movie. So that's why I wanted to start with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited for part two. Part two is
Hmm.
one of my most anticipated movies
Yeah,
because
the only
this
thing
story
I
gets so much better.
right, the only thing I wish is that they filmed them back to back, so they could have come out with a second one sooner. But I guess with pandemic stuff, I can see why they were, hesitant to greenlight a big budget sequel before the first one came out. But I think this one was bound to succeed.
Yeah. Uh, Another one, the Batman 2022
Yeah. Well,
recently.
first let's give Dune a rating. I think I gave it 9 out of 10.
I gave it 5 stars out of 5. I think it was a amazing film.
Yeah, and I think the biggest complaints I heard from some people was that like it seemed like in the end not much happened or something like it seemed like an incomplete story, but it really is an incomplete story because it's half the book. So, I encourage anyone who wasn't convinced by the end of the first movie to still see the second movie whenever it comes out. So, hopefully hopefully people can enjoy it even better once the story of the first Dune novel is complete. So, yeah, let's move on. The Batman 2022. I really like this movie.
I liked it a lot too, and I don't typically like Batman as a character. So like Batman movies, especially, I've always like been okay, whatever about. But this one was better than I would say. For me, I like it more than every other Batman movie that's happened
I
since.
I would have to go back and watch the Dark Knight movies again, I think. And when I did see, I never saw The Dark Knight or Batman Begins in theaters. I only saw The Dark Knight Rises in theaters. Um, and so there's a bit of a different level of comparison. I saw The Batman twice in the theater, and yeah, I really like it. It's definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if it's my absolute favorite Batman movie, but it's definitely top two. I think it's probably between that and The Dark Knight. And and like I said, it's been a while since I watched Dark Knight, so I'd have to probably watch them both not too far apart to really compare. But I think this one was like the most realistic of all the Batman movies, so I think that was really cool.
My thing with it, and it's probably the reason why I don't like Batman. I've said this before, I think on this podcast, maybe somewhere else, but every villain in like movies since The Dark Knight, every villain's trying to be the Joker, pretty much. Like you had that. I did say on this podcast. Yeah, like Black Panther, Claw was trying to be the Joker. In Man of Steel, Lex Luthor's being the Joker. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, and then in this movie you have the Riddler being the Joker.
I
Where just
think
like
this Riddler was really good. In fact, I definitely see like comparisons to the Joker. And I think the Riddler, for someone who's like one of the more comical comic book villains, like, I mean, I think that this version is much more realistic. Like, he seems like someone who could actually be at an mental hospital or insane asylum like Arkham. And I don't know, of course, I don't have the medical training, but he seems like the character really was like had traits of, I don't know if you call it narcissism and psychopathic behavior and everything. Like he seemed like a realistic villain. So, and with all the modern day stuff, the technology, the website, like spoiler alert when they say URL, you are El Rata Lara, and then they're like, it's not El Rata, it's La Rata, and then they're like, oh, URL, then they type it in, and they communicate with him, and the thumb drive and everything. Like, the riddles are all, I found the riddles all really good in this one.
yeah, and,
Hello?
very surprising. I did not look
I
like
lost you there
the
for a couple
Penguin.
seconds.
Colin the Penguin and Farrell. Colin Farrell as the
Hmm.
Penguin did not look like Colin Farrell. That was very
Yeah,
well
yeah, it was great.
costume.
And I think this Batmobile, for being pretty much just a regular car, I thought was like the most badass Batmobile I've ever seen in a movie or TV series for
Her
Batman.
casting with Zoe Kravitz. Yeah,
Hmm.
like just the fear that put into the Penguin. That was a great scene.
Yeah.
Selena Kyle being played by Zoe Kravitz, and the
Hmm.
fight scenes they had with her, the few ones they had where she was fighting the
Hmm.
man that's like twice her size. Uh, I just the choreography for the movies fight scenes were very good. Uh,
Yeah, and I think
and
this one had like the
Robert
most.
Pattinson's
Sorry, go ahead.
Robert Pattinson's a better Batman than Christopher Nolan.
And
Christopher Nolan, yeah, Chris. Oh my gosh, yeah,
then Christian Bale from the
yes, that's
Christopher
the name
Nolan
I'm thinking
movies.
of. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I love Jeffrey Wright and him as Gordon. Andy Serkis as Alfred was great. Yeah, the only thing I'm not too set on is spoiler alert. The Joker at the end seems
Oh, I
like,
hated that. That was the worst.
yeah. I mean, I'll definitely go see the sequel if and when it comes out. I'm pretty sure it's been greenlit already, but he wasn't like he didn't seem that great to me. It's like you said, like there's so many villains now that are trying to be like Heath Ledger's Joker. And for one thing, I'm like when people see a Joker adaptation, they're like, oh, they all try to make him even crazy or something. Like that's the Joker. Like that's his character. It's not that crazy that they have portraying it in a similar way. Like they're portraying the same character. So, but like this one was like they had all this. He clearly had like some disfigurements or something. Is weird. It's a very young actor. I liked him as an actor, but I don't know if that was the best for this role. But I'll give it a chance. I'll definitely go see the sequel, whether it's the Joker or someone else is the main villain. But I think this one had quite a few villains in it, and I think it was the most detective-ish of all of them. For
Yeah,
the world's greatest detective, I think this was the only movie that really leaned into it.
yeah. This is like very detective Batman in terms of the comics. Uh, so I gave this movie 4 stars, but now that I'm thinking about it more, I say I liked it a lot. I don't really like Batman that much. I think it might be 3, but I need to rewatch it.
I've always loved Batman.
But the
I
more I'm
give
thinking
it
about this movie,
8
I'm
out
just
of
like,
10.
I did like the music a lot. How they used the Nirvana song as like
Yeah.
a like kind of a mantra throughout the movie that just kind of like played slowly. But
Hmm.
it also like made it a lot more grunge, especially with Robert Patterson wearing the guy.
Yeah, this is the first movie or on-screen portrayal I've seen where they actually show Batman with the makeup that he very obviously wears underneath the eyes, and this is the first time you actually see it. So I appreciate them for including that because in I know there's this one scene in The Dark Knight Rises where you see him like he takes off his cowl when he gets back to the Batcave, and his eyes are no makeup or anything. I'm like, I mean, you're wearing something under the mask because they don't go all the way to your eyelids, but it just magically disappears when he takes it off. But in this one, they showed it loud and proud. Good for them. All right. So, what's next? What's a movie that you saw that stood out to you?
Okay, so stood out in a very bad way. Was did you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from
No,
this year? It
no,
was a Netflix exclusive.
I did
Oh,
not.
it's awful. I gave it half a star. Yeah,
Half
it's
star.
not good. It's the yes the I don't ever do like, oh yeah, I do like whole numbers, but this is like I can't say 0, but it's not even 1 star. It's a trash movie. It's kind of like pooping on the whole idea of that franchise as a horror movie,
Hmm.
and the premise is stupid. The end is awful. It just the movie. Just don't watch it. Uh, Speaking
All
of bad
right.
movies, did you
Well,
see Morbius?
yeah, I saw Morbius. You mean the greatest movie ever?
It's Morbin time, bro.
Yeah.
That was the first movie I saw in Japan, and
Um.
wow,
Yeah, it was like the actors weren't bad. Like none of this was like Jared Leto's or Matt Smith's fault. It was just a bad movie. Like
bad script, bad project. Everything about it was bad. and then the
Hmm.
ending made it even worse with the whole like,
The ending,
what's
they
going on with
gotta
the
cut
universe?
out. The thing is with this Sony Spider Verse, Spider-Man related verse, where Spider-Man is in the MCU. It's just like all these credit scenes. They're like trying to kind of bring Spider-Man into it, but then all the credit scenes in the Marvel movies are like getting the Sony characters out of it. So it's like, what are they doing? It's like I don't know who has control of it. I don't know if like the people at Marvel have a say in how they control the sharing of these characters, or but it just the way it seems to me without knowing is like Sony is doing everything to try to bring Spider-Man into their movies, and then Marvel's like, no, we don't want your stuff in our movies, and they're just like throwing it back and forth, and they never get anywhere with it. Like I said with the Thor podcast, they need to get rid of these post-credit scenes. Like they just keep teasing things that don't happen, so it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, like remember the post credit scene for the Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just kind of like that the franchise died.
Yeah, and
It's
that
yeah.
one was
So
a bit
yeah, Morbius
unfortunate for them.
was an awful movie.
You
The
know,
actors.
I'm sure that one would have led to the Amazing Spider-Man 3, but yeah, still like they go through so many changes, and it's just like they keep promising things that don't happen. So I just wish they'd get rid of it. And it didn't clear anything up. It's like the spoiler alert for the post-credit scene of Morbius, if you care to watch it for that long. The the what's it called? The Vulture, right, from Spider-Man: Homecoming. He shows up and he's like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yes,
think the reason we're here has something to do with Spider-Man. Like, first of all, how the hell does he know that? He was in prison, and then all of a sudden he woke up in a prison in another universe. Like, he should have no idea what was going on. And then I don't know if they showed how he escaped from prison or not. I don't remember. But then he flies to Morbius, and this movie paints Morbius as like a hero, like
it
not
was.
even like an anti-hero. He's pretty much just a hero in this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
and
he stumbled along the way there, but he's not even like at all. I wouldn't even call him like villain adjacent in this movie. And then he's hanging out with the villain, and then the guy says to him, it has something to do with Spider-Man. Morbius has no idea who that guy is or who Spider-Man is, like who Vulture or Spider-Man is. Like, why is he meeting with? Like, it just made no damn sense.
yeah,
So,
it really made my head hurt because that's not what the way he described it was wrong. Because apparently he didn't escape from prison. He was never supposed to be in prison in that universe to begin with. So they let him free. They're like, we found this guy in the jail that shouldn't be
okay,
here, and it's like that. What is it? That doesn't make any sense. Like it's not. I mean, it just makes my head hurt. I don't
yeah,
get what they're
the whole thing was just like,
trying to do.
why'd they even do it? So yeah, there's another negative. I don't. Did I
And you
even
also
rate it on IMDb?
you said
Let me check if I gave it a rating. What were you saying?
you said that the acting was good. I mean, you said the acting was
It
good, but
wasn't
like Matt
Oscar
Smith,
winning, but I don't
that's a
think
guy's
any of
name.
the problems with the movie were the actor's fault. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. But Jared Leto, however you say it, Leto.
Leto.
Everything he's been in recently is just like not been good.
So
Yeah,
I haven't rated it yet. I will rate it. I think a 5, which for me is like if it's on TV, you're just flipping channels and you got nothing else to do. Sure, you could stick around, but otherwise, like if you paid to go see it in the theater, not really worth it. You know, I saw it in the
I gave it
theater.
1 star because yeah, 1 star. It's not. It feels like it's 10 years too late. You know, it feels like something that would have come out 10 years ago with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, actually,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I could
or that really
see
bad
something like that.
Fantastic Four movie. I never saw actually.
No, I never saw any of the. I only saw Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Not even the first one from that series.
No, I was talking about the.
But no,
I
the
was talking about
newer
the new
one with
one with
Michael B.
Michael B.
Jordan,
Jordan.
Miles Teller. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
never
I
saw
never
that
saw
one
that.
either. I heard it got terrible reviews, and I was like, yeah, okay, I won't see it. But all right. So I gave it a 5 out of 10. You gave it a 1 out of 5. What's next? I'd like to mention Top Gun Maverick. So
Oh,
you
yeah, I
went
saw
back and
that.
watched the original before you saw this one, right?
No, I actually didn't get around to seeing the original, which
Oh,
I liked a lot because this movie was very it made it easy for people to understand what's going on. You can tell what all the callbacks were, like the piano scene in the bar. Like they made it very easy for someone who's never seen the movie. And this movie was very big in Japan with older people, but also younger people who've never seen Top Gun and were
hmm,
seeing it with their parents who love Top Gun. Because Tom
interesting.
Cruise even recorded a special message for this movie in Japan in the beginning, where he's like, "Hey Japan, watch this movie," and everyone like loved it.
Uh, yeah, I had it in. He didn't target it to the Netherlands. Of course, the Dutch theaters play it always in the original language. But he was like, "Thank you for coming to see this movie in the theaters. We worked really hard, and we spent a lot of time making sure we got it all right to do real stunts with real FA-18s and real G forces and everything. So thank you for coming to the theater to see it, what how it was made to be seen." So I appreciated that because I went to the theater to see it, and I think it's to really appreciate the stunts in this one is like you can tell they're really flying those things. Like you can see when they're pulling up and they're going through G forces, you can see their faces getting pulled down, and it's just like they did it for real because of course they've mentioned it so much in the press for this movie, but it's just like for some reason, I'm not an expert on how things look inside the cockpit of a fighter jet, but you can just see how real it all looks in the final product.
Yeah, no, I think that this movie when I rated it and I said in my rating, this is like Biden's America. This is what people this is the American dream of today. This movie, I don't know why I felt that when I watched this movie, I'm like, this is connecting the boomers with the zoomers. Especially like the volleyball it wasn't volleyball, it was the outdoor
The
beach
football,
football
yeah.
scene.
hmm
That was just like fan service for the women that were watching
I think it
it,
was
but
good
also
because
was
it
like
was, yeah, it was
good for the
calling back
guys
to that
too.
original volleyball scene, and so they changed the sport, and then he's like, it's about teamwork, and so they gave it a reason to exist, but obviously they just put it in because it's a famous scene from the original. But it's like you said, like there's so many callbacks, and I think it was just the right amount of like nostalgic fan service and just the right amount of like a new story. Of course, in this and the original, the enemies like they never say the name of the enemy. Obvious made to look like has some kind of a Soviet style like red star on the aircraft and stuff. But and of course the original came out in the 80s, so they have that. Yeah, it's very obviously drawing on the Soviet Cold War enemies of the time, but yeah, I thought it was really really good, and the story it kind of I guess it made enough sense, with an unnamed enemy to they have to destroy this bunker before they have this unbeatable weapon, and yeah, flying through the mountains and stuff. They just gave it the right setting, and I really like the setting at the end with the snow covered mountains and everything. It was like a lot different than anything else we had seen in Top Gun before. It's just really
Yeah,
cool
and
contrast.
I was on the edge of my seat for lot of that movie, which was surprising because I've never seen Top Gun because I was just like, oh, it sounds like some like old person movie about the military. And the watching, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like this is kind of fun.
Yeah, it was like just the right amount of because that kind of like officer training movie was like, there were a bunch of those back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like Top Gun, Officer and a Gentleman, and it's like it goes back to that style of the officer training, and it's still like it brings it into the modern day in a way that like it still works and is feels almost like an 80s movie, but it also feels like a modern movie. And like with spoiler alert, when it seems like Maverick's died at the end. I was like, I'm okay with that. I think that's a moving story. But when he's not really dead and they bring him back and they make sure they both come back, it's like it was not so much fan service. Like it wasn't too much. Like I didn't feel like, oh, there's no way that like I didn't feel like they should have killed off Maverick. Like the way they brought him back, there happened to be an F-14 sitting there and he made it work. Like I think it was, like I said, just the right amount of fan service, and it was just really cool to see it all. So yeah, overall I liked it. I think
I really,
I
I thought they were gonna,
say that again.
I thought they were going to kill him off. I was surprised they didn't, but I was also really happy. Like this is the American dream.
Yeah, it was like when it happened, I was like, oh, they killed him. Okay, well, that's a moving, compelling story. And then it was like, it wasn't to the point where I'm like, oh, well, he's obviously not dead. Like, it was believable. And when they brought him back, like 5 minutes later, I was like happy about it. It wasn't like I didn't like see through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So I gave this one 8 out of 10.
yeah. I gave it 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think it's great action, great movie. Tom Cruise once again has some of the best stunts in Hollywood, and yeah, highly recommend it as well. Um, let's see, got time for one more? There was one I wanted to talk about. Give me a second. Um, uh, Prey on Hulu.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah,
only
yeah,
thing there are two things I wish they could have done to make this movie better, or not necessarily better. Well, one, to make it better, I wish it came out in theaters. I don't know if Hulu produced this movie or the studios just produced this movie and then Hulu picked it up for distribution. But it came out on Hulu, or if you were in another country, it was on Disney Plus. And I it came out recently, so I was back in the USA and I watched it. And I wish they would have done the whole thing in Comanche. I know they had originally wanted to do that, but they ended up filming it in English, but they have a Comanche dub, which has been quite popular, and it's the first movie that's ever been entirely dubbed in Comanche, and all the Comanche dubbing is done by the on-screen actors in the movie who did it in English. So I think that's really, really cool to show their language and have their culture represented like that.
yeah. That's very impressive. I wish I watched the Comanche dub, but I wasn't able to find it on the service I was using to watch it in Japan. And I think this is way better than the last Predator movie that was talking about how autism was the next step of human evolution and was kind of all over the place. This movie is
The
really cool
last,
to
yeah,
have
the
like
last
a
Predator
playful.
movie, whatever they called it, The Predator, I think was the title. That was terrible. I did not like
Yes,
that
yes,
movie at all. It was so bad. This movie was like the best one since the original. I think it might be on par with the original. Like I think the only reason people say it's the best since the original is because it's not. Like if this was the original and the original just came out now, they would be calling this one the best since the original. You know what I mean? It's confusing.
yes,
But
yes.
um but yeah, I think this one is great, and I love to see the Native American stuff in there, the Comanche stuff. And I'm just gonna look at a thing here on the use of the language. So, like I said, it was supposed to, or originally, Dan Trachtenberg, the director, wanted to film it. So here's what he said: the initial concept was for all of it to be in Comanche, but as the story evolved, we found that there was a great mixture of languages, and made this decision to not have subtitles. As new characters and languages come into the story, you're always linked to Naru and her experience of it. What sounds foreign to her will sound foreign to the viewers as well. So that's pretty good reason. That makes sense to me. And of course, everybody, like a lot of the people who worked on it, the producer says this is a type of movie you should watch twice, so I recommend you watch it in Comanche and English. I've watched it once. I watched it for a bit, like first 15 minutes in English, then I watched like the next 15 minutes with the Comanche dub, and I went back to the English just because that's what it's filmed in, so the it matches and it just fits better. Um, so like I would have liked to see it all in Comanche. I watch a lot of foreign stuff, and with us being into languages, I'm sure it's good for us. But I can see the director's reasoning why you want the like when they have the French characters come into the movie, you want it to sound foreign to the audience because it also sounds foreign to the main characters. That makes a lot of sense. I think
Yeah, I
that's a
get
good
yeah, I
decision.
get the understanding, but it did make me feel really weird when the French guy started speaking English. Like, hey, I'm speaking your language. I know your language. And I'm like, this is weird because this like it shouldn't be English. This shouldn't be English. But
Hmm.
whatever. That just
Yeah, yeah. There's
it
always
felt goofy
that.
to me.
I think for us as linguistics people, it's we kind of want to see them use accurate languages, but of course, you always risk alienating the audience. So I think it was a good decision, and the fact that they have the Comanche dub, I believe if you watch the Comanche dub, the subtitles might be quite a bit different from the English. Like the English subtitles to the Comanche dub might be quite a bit different from the um, like the
Actual
actual English that's
translation.
spoken, because I
Yeah.
believe he said they did a lot of like lip matching to make the Comanche dub look like it fits better. So they might have taken some liberties with the actual lines that were used, but I'm sure it's still the same movie and the same story. But yeah, I would be happy to go back and watch it again, like in Comanche. I think probably it would have been better to watch it in Comanche first and then watch it in English. But yeah, it's a great movie. I'd love to watch it again. I give it 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was a good movie. I don't know about great. It just felt really like sometimes felt kind of low budget. I liked the movie a lot. Just kind of felt like weird, but it is the best Predator movie I've seen since the original.
Hmm.
So and I had lots of good callbacks to it, but I gave it 3 out of 5.
Yeah, and one more quick mention. I'd like to discuss the new Matrix movie, or it's a few months old now, but Matrix Resurrections. Did you see it?
It's over a year old now. What are you talking about?
No, no, it came out in like November or December or January. Came out like in the winter time.
Of last year.
Yeah, like December 2021. Oh, I
Yeah.
guess I guess it
Since
is September already, so it is almost a
yes.
year. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot what month it is, but I'm still on. I mean, it's still summer. Okay, it came out 2 seasons ago. All right. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. I don't think it was the best movie ever or anything, but I really liked it, and I think with every movie or every work of art or like anything, I think it always helps if you read like in terms of movies, if you read the directors or the writers' intentions with certain things, I think it always helps, makes it so much better. So like with this one, if you read Lana Wachowski's reasoning behind it, like it wasn't so much of a Hollywood wanted to just bring this Matrix cash cow back and pump out another sequel. Like Lana Wachowski wrote it in response to her parents dying, and so it's kind of like therapeutic for her. And so this story about two people being resurrected and finding each other again, like that's where it comes from her own emotions and everything. So you read it like that, if you go into it knowing that, or if you look back on it knowing that, I think it helped you appreciate it better. Like I said, it wasn't amazing. Some of the changes, like the updates they did, I think it was cool that they updated something, so it wasn't like you had to go to a payphone to get out of the Matrix. So spoiler, not that big a deal. But like when the first one came out, you had to go to payphones to get out of the Matrix because that's the technology of the time. Whereas like nobody used payphones anymore, so they had other ways of getting out these days. So there were like some updates to reflect the modern audience, but also it was like still you still had to connect to the internet or call something to get pulled out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I can. This is a bad movie to end this on because I've literally written like paragraphs and paragraphs about this film in particular because I love the Matrix, the first Matrix movie, and this is better than the two sequels. And this ties everything together about the allegory of the Matrix and why Lana Wachowski made it. It's all an allegory about transitioning and who you are as a person, and just stuff like that. That most of the audience I feel like doesn't understand, but that's what literally she's came out and said. This is what the movie is about, and people are like, no, 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 that's not what it is. So that's
Hmm.
I'll just leave it at that. I think it's a great movie, and I like how she's like kind of giving the middle finger to uh, the whole meta thing. You know, people trying to be like, oh yeah, this is super deep. She's giving that a finger and she's like, no, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it was interesting because it's like it criticizes, like through the story in this one where they talk about the Matrix being a video game within the Matrix, um, right? And they're like criticizing just bringing back old ones to create another sequel that doesn't need to be there. So they're like criticizing it, but at the same time, it is a sequel of an older series. So it's like it's criticizing itself, but it's like it like we said, it wasn't made for the reasons of bringing back an old series. It was made for other more personal reasons. But it's just kind of I think a lot of people when you don't look into the director's intent, they just see that at the surface level and it kind of appears like all the other old movies where they bring back a modern sequel. But, yeah, I liked it. It was fun. It was still the Matrix, and like it made sense. Like the last one ended, the Matrix didn't end with the third movie. Like it was, they always established there were cycles to this. So like it's not like they pulled this out of thin air and came up with some crazy excuse to make it work again. Like it all fits within what was established 20 years ago.
Yeah. So I feel like I give a lot of movies fives on this podcast, and I'm not really a five kind of guy. 5 out of 5. I think those are like perfect movies for what they are in
Mhm.
in their genres. But I gave this
Yeah.
movie a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it as a movie. I think I give this like a 7 out of 10. It's like it's a really good movie. I enjoyed it, and I really like to watch it. Um, it's not the best thing ever. Like the original Matrix, I'd give like an 8 out of 10, which is the 8 out of 10 is a really great movie for me. So 7 out of 10 is like this is a really good movie. You should definitely go see it in the theater. So yeah, that's it. I think that's all we'll talk about today. And if you've
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will put this. This will be, of course, if you're listening, this on Spotify and YouTube, as all of our podcasts will be from now on. And yeah, please like, share, subscribe on whatever platform you're on. And if you like listening, then like the podcast, and that's how we know that people want to hear more. So if you made it this far,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, until next time.
See you again. Bye.